Initially, the biggest thing is how do I get enough fat into my body? That's, when you're making that switch, like our brains are not set up. We've not been trained over the course of our lifetimes, whether you're 18 or, whether you're 85, we've not been trained over the course of our lifetimes to consume the amount of fat that we need to consume to be successful.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Real Keto Talk. Very excited for the guest that we have on today. Somebody that is going to be helpful both with good keto tips and who's achieved a lot of success, but maybe even more so is going to give us some great tips for our mindset for this journey that we're on. So let me introduce my friend, John Canida. John, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you hopping on the show here.
Of course. I didn't know why you invited me or what you invited me to. I came because it was you who asked me.
Well, I appreciate that. Hopefully, you'll be glad that you're on. I think you're going to have a lot of good stuff to talk about. John, tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit about yourself.
My background. I'm 64, almost 65 in 2 months. Grew up in Indiana, lived most of my life in Boston. That's why I wear this hat. And I've been in Phoenix, Arizona for about 15 years. My parents lived out here. My father recently died. Um, and my mom's still here. She's 88. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather of two. My daughter and my son-in-law and my two grandkids live in Indiana. I'm an entrepreneur, worked in corporate America for the first, 10 years of my life, and got out of that gig and kind of haven't punched a time clock in over 30 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, John, let's first talk about, since we are on Real Keto Talk, and let's first talk about you have been doing the keto diet for how long?
Oh gosh, I don't know, 6 years.
Yeah, you've been doing it a while and you've achieved some really good results. How much weight in total have you lost since doing the keto diet?
Does that include the amount that you lose and you gain back and then you lose again?
Yeah, and I'm going to ask
Yeah,
you about that, but what's the grand total on the weight loss?
the grand total, not all, well, obviously a lifetime of losing weight, putting it on. I don't have a number for that. But the first time, like I made the promise about being in ketosis, well over 100 pounds
That's incredible.
in in in
Congratulations.
in a very short amount of time too.
I remember it was a short period of time, and that was an incredible accomplishment. Um, Tell us a little bit about, since you committed obviously at that point and you actually achieved quite a bit. What was sort of your strategy with the keto diet? Did you have a certain way that you went about it? Like what was your kind of your basic strategy for doing the diet?
Okay, I want to give you a little context to answer that question. Um, I've 20 some years I've been in the world of um, transformational education and distinctions and stuff like that around integrity and word and promises and stuff like that. So when the keto conversation came up, somebody called me and said something about a new nutritional product, right? Um, that I could be in ketosis in an hour. In that moment, I knew that my life changed because I'd used ketosis like a couple times before to lose some weight. I knew that it worked, right? But I don't like to be hungry. That to me is like somebody's, like the whole thing around fasting and stuff like that. But, well, two things. Number one, I made a decision, no more carbs, right? I've been a bodybuilder off and on my whole life. So I know when I read a label on a product, I actually know what that stuff means, right? So the first thing was no more carbs, like word, like promise, that stuff that we talked about. And the other thing was um, I promised my mother, like I told my mom, I gave my mom my word that I would do that.
So you had some accountability in place.
Exactly, exactly. And, you know, my mom has done a lot of training and development that I have too. So she gets the distinction word and integrity and promise and things like that. So she can listen to that promise a certain way. Because when people tell us, I'm going to lose weight, and I don't use the word weight anymore, lose fat, um, you know, we listen to them in such a way like, yeah, right, we'll see. But for me, it was done. It was done. Once I said that, I mean, like when I got this phone call from this guy, um, Billy Funk, you know Billy, right? And he said, you know, that they developed this stuff. I said, I knew in that moment, it was like God was calling me up and saying, John, it's time. And in that moment, there wasn't, you know, it was my life before that phone call and my life after that phone call. And I will be forever grateful for Billy Funk making that phone call.
So you were going down that road, and you kind of started with a few core principles about just starting out by cutting out the carbs, making sure that you were in ketosis, and then along the way, how did things evolve? Because I'm guessing it wasn't just one straight line from A to B, and there was never any adjustments.
Well, first thing I did was I cleaned everything out in my kitchen, right? I'm 33 years clean and sober, soon to be 34.
And
I don't
congrats.
have alcohol in my house. I don't have drugs in my house. I don't. You know, I've during times in my sobriety, I've lived with people or whatever where there are. Oh, as a matter of fact, my roommate, there is alcohol in the kitchen. I don't even think about it. But first thing I did was clean out my kitchen and go to the store and buy um, you know, protein things and fat, right? Initially, the biggest thing is how do I get enough fat into my body? That's, you know, when you're making that switch, like our brains are not set up, we've not been trained over the course of our lifetimes, you know, whether you're 18 or, you know, whether you're 85, we've not been trained over the course of our lifetimes to consume the amount of fat that we need to consume to be successful.
Yeah.
So I never counted calories. I've in the beginning, I you know used the pee sticks, right? Go in the bathroom. Am I in ketosis? Am I not in ketosis? Um, but I've never counted calories ever. Like
Every-
if you
Wait,
see
did
the
wait,
amount of
did everybody hear that? John, who lost 100 pounds, was not counting calories. Let's make sure we pause and hear that little bit of advice. So keep on going, John.
yeah, that's you know I don't want to live that way, right? Never measured my food, never did anything. I just quit eating carbs, you know, and anyway, you know, you hear people they talk about themselves. I'm kind of going down the road that's not your question, but people, you know, when you talk to people about keto or something, you know, like you get a whole variety of responses, you know, just
Yeah.
as different as there are people that you're chatting with. But you know, people say, "Oh, I could never give up bread," or you know, whatever. There's certain things that people say every time, and a lot of them use the same one. I'm Italian, or whatever. You know, I like bread pudding, whatever it is. Like the thing is about ketosis is awesome. Whatever that stuff, when you say that stuff, you know, I mean, we're addicted to sugar. It's more of a it's more of a blood sugar thing and an insulin thing than anything else, right?
Yeah.
We know how to keep our blood sugar at a certain level. That's why we eat all day long, because we're trying to maintain our blood sugar. We're actually not hungry. But anyway, it's interesting how we have like all these reasons and excuses why we don't do what it is that we know we really need to do for our health.
Now, on that front, I know that part of the reason why you achieved the success that you did, obviously you did, the right things in terms of the diet, which we're not going to call a diet, right? On there. But how much of the success on that journey for you came from the really strong mindset skills that you have? Do you feel like that was a big part of the equation?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so. I'm a big personal development guy, and years ago, 20 some years ago, I did a course called the Landmark Forum, and a bunch of subsequent courses within that company, and that gave me distinctions and it gave me power um, that most people don't have. I didn't
Okay.
used to have it. Like when I say something,
Yeah.
like I use the word, and people hear me say that, but they don't get what it is that I'm saying. They just hear me use the word. In the beginning there was nothing, and then God said, "Let there be light," right? And there was. And he spoke the heavens and earth into existence. And we actually speak ourselves into existence. What we say about ourselves actually causes the life that we have.
So
And
so so how did that apply to your health journey? What were you saying to yourself or how should we be speaking to ourselves to help us have that same type of strong mindset that you had to get to your health goals?
well, first of all, the context, I was hiding, right? I was hiding. I was 300 and some pounds. I was friggin' miserable. My feet were swelled up. My ankles were turning purple. When you have that much, when you're that obese, fat, whatever, and I can be brutal, sorry people. Um, I was hiding all of that. And when I got the call from Billy Funk, and I ordered that a keto product, keto supplement, and I went into the bathroom and I took off, down to my sweatpants. I got my phone out in the mirror and I took pictures and I posted them on Facebook. Well, I didn't post them, I created the post. And then I got really honest and authentic about the impact of being out of integrity around my health, right? Um, like I knew, I've always known that what I was eating was not nutritionally feeding my body. I've always known that. I mean, and we just lie to ourselves. So anyway, I put that post together, and I'm a transformational life coach, if you will, too. I That's what I call myself. I don't have a degree in it, but I've got 20 some years and massive, massive thousands and thousands of hours of training in that area. So I made that up. So I have this thing that, you know, what human beings want is we want to look good and we want to avoid looking bad. It runs us. It's in our machinery. So we hide stuff. And, I mean, everybody could see it, but I'm suppressed. I'm not all I can be because I'm acting like my life is okay when I'm 300 and some pounds, right? So anyway, I got online, I put this Facebook post together, and you know, I remember I was like, oh boy, all the people who think I'm a certain way are going to find out that I'm not. I'm not that way, right? And I'm like I've been hiding like all this stuff, and 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 in that moment I hit post, and it was up on the internet. There it was, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, like the raw truth about the impact of being obese, and both from a health standpoint and a psychological mental standpoint. And I am what I thought was going to push people away, what I thought was going to cause people to respect me less, right, actually drew everybody closer. They're like, I can't believe you said that to the world, you know. But when I hit post, I really remember in that moment the freedom I had. You know, I was free, like being let out of jail. So, you know, just hide stuff. It's human nature, if you will. You know, it's our machinery. Um, that causes us to do that. You know, there's things that we don't want people to know about us because we think we'll look bad. And the thing is, everybody's dealing with the same crap. Anyway, that was a long answer to a short question, I think.
No, but I think it's an important one. It's that this health journey is, again, not just about, calories and macros and fats, but it's about whether or not we're able to keep our head in the game, for this journey that we're on, and having our head in the right place. Did you have times during the whole span of losing that 100 pounds where you struggled in terms of your mindset? Did you have times where you were having a hard time? And if so, how did you get yourself kind of back in a good headspace?
You know, the answer to that question might seem weird, or people might say, John, you're full of crap. But no, I didn't have any problem. It was
And
easy. It,
and
it, it
do you
was,
think that comes from your training and having the strong mindset to start?
yeah, well, I said it. I said it. You know what I mean? We went back to word, right? I
Yeah.
spoke those words about myself to the world through Facebook. I said it out loud. I made that promise. Like, if, everybody who's around me knows I'm clean and sober, whatever the right words are for July 28th, it'll be 34 years. So if somebody saw me with a beer in my hand, they might say, John, what's up? Right?
Yeah.
What's wrong that you would be
Right. Right.
drinking a beer? So, I said all that stuff out loud. So for me, I cleaned out my kitchen. I did those things. I got the proper supplements in my space. I went to the gym. With the membership at LA Fitness, and I just walked in and I was free. I was fat and free in the gym, and I didn't care. The only thing that hadn't happened, I knew it's like going from Phoenix to New York City and entering it in Google, right? If you do what Google Maps, right? If you do what Google Maps tells you to do in so many days based at this speed, you're going to be in New York City, right? In Times Square. It's not like do you actually have any doubts that if you do what Google tells you, I mean, you never look at a map, you never ask for directions, you just do what Google tells you until you get there. And it was the same way with me. Once I said it, I the only thing that hadn't happened was the calendar, enough days hadn't passed for me to be where I wanted to be. It was time. That was the only thing. Once I got going, well, the first thing I did was I promised a lot of people that I would lose 50 pounds in 90 days, right? Which, that was my first thing. And then I did that. I mean, like that was pretty friggin' easy, right? Was never hungry, felt good all the time. And, I'm why not? Anyway.
So let me dig into one thing on that. So because in terms of defining, so you mentioned about integrity, right? And that's a big part of how you operate. Now, the way that a lot of people are going to think about that term is, either doing something, really bad versus doing something that's the right thing and the wrong thing. But in this context, you're speaking about integrity a little bit differently in terms of between you and yourself. Can you elaborate on that and explain to people how that
Well,
works?
yeah, sure. Well, the distinction, integrity itself, right? It's how we distinguish the distinction, integrity, that gives us what it is that it is. And when we say the word integrity, we get into morality, good or bad, right or wrong. Oh, he called me a bad person. People get really defensive when you say they have no integrity,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm not talking about, oh, you're a bad person or you're a criminal or what. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you don't do what you say you're going to do. You don't show up on time. You don't pay me back the money you owe me on time, right? That's what I'm talking about. And I mean, fundamentally, there's different things that you see in people, and we all have them, um, that kind of gives you little warning flags. They're not warning flags. It just distinguishes that this person doesn't value their promises, right? So integrity is, and let me go back just a little bit. It's like integrity is the state of being whole and complete. Nothing needs to be added, nothing needs to be taken away. And how I explain that is if you're living on a cul-de-sac, you're laying on the couch watching Jerry Springer all day long, and your bicycle's in the garage, and all you do is ride your bicycle around the cul-de-sac. It doesn't matter if your bicycle's missing a couple spokes. Doesn't matter, right? However, if you're an elite athlete and you ride your bike in the Tour de France, you need integrity in your bicycle. It needs to be whole and complete. I mean, those people have their bicycles tuned up because they can die. It can kill them. So the thing is, integrity is only as important as what you're up to matters.
So in this
What?
case, when you were talking about like your word and you said it, this is about having integrity with yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I got what you're saying, but there's no integrity with having integrity with yourself, but my integrity with you, I don't have integrity with you. There's no place where that ends and begins. It's either you're living a life of doing what you said you would do when you said you would do it, or you're not. Right? And it's the same way around ketosis, diets, whatever. Either you're living the life of what you say you're going to do or you're not. And you can hear it in people speaking when they're talking about themselves and, you know, their fears around getting fit or whatever the case may be. You can hear it like, ooh, nah, I don't think they're going to make it. Yeah,
I think they're
it's
sort of
not
trying to give themselves an out.
yeah, yeah, people talk, they have a backdoor speaking about what they're promising, like I'm going to do this, but or if this happens, we have all these things like, we're in a ketosis and my dog died. So I went out and had pizza. Like they're connected. But we surround ourselves with people who say, yeah, if my dog died, I'd have pizza too, and I'd break my promise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally does. And that's something where it kind of gives it more of that global feel. Like it isn't about necessarily just having the pizza. It's about kind of you staying in, being consistent with what you have set out to do. And it's not about like, did you eat pizza one day? It's about as an overall part of yourself and how you operate, being in a, being consistent with your word. Is that a good summary?
Um, yeah, that's good. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so for somebody who is just starting out, say that they're just starting out on their keto journey or on their health journey, what would be your best couple of pieces of advice to kind of set them off on a good path?
Call me.
All right, yeah, John's here. John's very good. John's helped me a lot. I've talked to him quite a bit about my own journey, so I can tell you John's a good person to talk to.
Well, we've met for coffee time, you know what I mean? And we've talked at other times. I couldn't give you a list, but um, the thing is when we spoke about things that were authentic and real and important. I'm not going to sit around and talk to people about the weather.
Yeah,
That's not my thing, right?
yeah, right.
My thing is, I've had near death. I've been dead. I overdosed and died and went down the tunnel. All that stuff. When I was in my 20s, but um, my kind of like who I am that I am is, I've like, what am I about? I'm about contribution. I'm about making a difference. I want you to say, when you met John Canada, your life changed, right? Like there's something that I said or did that made a huge difference in your life. That's that's the only dog I have in the hunt, if you will. Speaking of growing up in Indiana, I don't, I we people always have these secondary motives, if you will, like in the background they want something, you know, um, and mine is contribution. God has knocked me to my knees multiple times in my life and said, John, stop doing that. That's not why I have you here. And when I'm able to have or say or contribute to something where, because it's like it always comes back. Might be years later, you said something to me that I thought you were an ass, but but it really made a difference that you said that. Like, I'm that guy. I'm not all lovey-dovey, hug them up, and I am that. I mean, you know me, I am that, but let's we're going to have authentic conversations. I'm not going to sit here and co-sign. I'm a coach. I want you to win. That's that's it. That's all I got. Anyway.
That's fantastic. So on that front, John, if somebody wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
Well, the best thing to do would just be to go to my Facebook page, message me. My name is spelled John. My last name is Canida. And I think that there's only two of us on Facebook. And when you're on Facebook, the other John Canada is African American, and I'm the Caucasian guy, right? Or whatever the right no, don't cancel me thing to
Well, that's
say
okay.
is.
We're gonna post your Facebook link too, so they'll be sure they can just zip right over to you.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, John, this has been great. I really appreciate your time. I hope you'll come back another time and let me ask you more questions and talk more about this.
Awesome, awesome. Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Sure. I was getting permission that I was going to do it anyway, right?
No, that's
Um,
all right.
I just want people to know, like, I get it. Like, I get it. Wherever it is that you are, in knowing that you're not living the life physically that is possible. And I know the depression, or I know what it is to live that life for a long time. And one of the things when I first did the whole keto thing is probably more of an answer to the first question you asked me, but I just started to educate myself about the truth around nutrition, because you are not getting the truth. You're not. And it's tough. But big food and big pharma has no interest in you being healthy. None. They want you addicted to sugar. They want you to have diabetes. And they want to pump you full of drugs. They got no interest in you being healthy. I mean, some inside that category, there are nutrition companies, or there are doctors or whatever that there are. But our brains are loaded with so much bad information, and you've got a lifetime of it. Nutritionally, we're just sheep, and we're following something that's going to walk us off a cliff. I mean, if you look at, you know, what's the goal? What's the ultimate goal? Is the ultimate goal is to die healthy, right? Which is a weird thing. You don't want to die of a bunch of diseases and suffer, right? You want to die healthy. If you die healthy, you lived a good life. And I get that conversation, but wherever it is that you're looking, if you're having challenges with what your challenges are, you're looking in the wrong place. Hope isn't the right answer. There's a path that is easy, simple, but you've got to get all that bad operational nutritional
Yeah.
information out of your head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who said hope isn't a strategy? That's somebody's quote. I don't know who that is, but that's very true. Very true.
Yeah. There's only action, right?
Absolutely.
So,
all right,
thank
John,
you.
thank you again so much. It was so great to have you.
I love you. Thanks for letting me be on your show.
Of course. Anytime. Thanks, John.